Ayatollah Khamenei was responsible for the regime's ballistic missile and nuclear program, support for armed proxies, and its brutal acts of violence and intimidation against its own people. This claimed countless lives in Iran, but also internationally. He was responsible for orchestrating attacks on Australian soil. His passing will not be mourned. We have not been immune from the impacts of the regime's actions right here in Australia. Our valued Iranian-Australian community, that is 50,000 strong, see what happens overseas, and it understandably affects them greatly as they fear for the safety and security of family and friends. We've also seen at least 2 attacks orchestrated by the IRGC on Australian soil in 2024, including the firebombing of the Adar Synagogue in Melbourne, aimed at creating fear amongst Jewish Australians, but also aimed at dividing our nation. While we aren't directly active in the current military strikes, we have been clear and acted on our utter rejection of the brutal Iranian regime. Last year, we expelled Iran's ambassador. That is the first time an ambassador has been expelled from Australia since the Second World War. And that underlines how seriously we took the gravity of Iran orchestrating an attack on our soil. We suspended operations at our embassy in Tehran, and we listed the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a state sponsor of terrorism. We've sanctioned more than 200 Iranian-linked individuals, including more than 100 linked to the IRGC. We have long recognised that Iran's nuclear program is a threat to global peace and security. With international partners, including the United States and the G7, we have called for the Iranian regime to uphold the human rights and fundamental freedoms of Iran's citizens. Sadly, these calls have gone unheeded and action has now been taken. We support the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent Iran from continuing to threaten international peace and security. We are concerned about regional escalation and urge the protection of civilians. For those on the ground, Australian officials are closely monitoring what is an evolving situation. These events are unfolding rapidly. It is critical that anyone in the region takes note of the Smart Traveller website for the most up-to-date information that we can provide. We continue to advise Australians to not travel to Iran. This has been in place since 2020, and to leave Iran as soon as possible, of course, if it is safe to do so. Our ability to provide consular assistance in Iran is extremely limited. We have upgraded travel advice for Israel, Lebanon, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar and the United Arab Emirates to do not travel. Australians should leave now if it is safe to do so. The Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade is this morning opening its registration portal for Australians seeking assistance to depart Israel and Iran, and will be directly in touch with registered Australians with the latest information. The closure of transport hubs in the Middle East will likely lead to flight disruptions and cancellations. We've already seen flights return to Australia that were unable to land in either Dubai or Abu Dhabi, and of course Emirates in particular with Etihad have a large number of flights to the region, including of course as does Qatar and other airlines. Travellers should prioritise their safety. They should monitor events and follow local advice. Australians requiring urgent consular assistance can contact the Consular Emergency Centre 24/7 on 1300 555 135 in Australia. I repeat the number, 1300 555 135 in Australia, or +61 2 6261 3305. I repeat that as well, from outside of Australia. +61 2 6261 3305. I urge everyone to follow the travel advice and to support your friends and family who are directly or indirectly affected by what is happening in the Middle East. I understand this is a very difficult time for the tens of thousands of Australians with loved ones in the Middle East. The days ahead are going to be difficult. They are uncertain. We are deeply concerned, and my government's priority remains the safety of Australians in the region. My government will do all we can to keep Australians safe and protect our personnel who are there in the region as well. Happy to take a couple of questions.
Is there a moral case for this intervention and supporting Iranians who are risking their lives for democracy? You know, do you think we should be doing more to support the resistance there and you know the work to overthrow the revolutionary government?
Well, that is a matter for the Iranian people. But we stand with the Iranian people in standing up for their human rights. They have suffered brutal repression. Women in particular being singled out by the regime. But across the board, what we've seen with the crackdown in recent times, when Iranians went out onto the street to demand their human rights, to demand a return to giving them a say over their own future, we saw the IRGC crack down brutally. Thousands murdered, people incarcerated, and a regime that showed just how ugly its face is. This is a regime that we hope that the Iranian people are able to determine their own destiny. At the moment, that is clearly not the case.
Was this attack legal? Are you concerned that this might erode further the rules-based order?
Well, those are judgments and statements for the United States and for those involved directly in the attack. What I would say is that the threat to international peace and security of the Iranian regime is real. The fact that they orchestrated attacks here in Australia, on the other side of the world, underlines the threat that this regime presented to the rule of law and to international norms of behaviour.
Have you spoken to Donald Trump or Benjamin Netanyahu, and if not, do you expect to soon?
Well, we are in contact with the United States over all of these issues. We'll continue to engage diplomatically, which is what we do.
Is there a red line in Australia's support for this strike? You know, is Australia supportive of a short and narrow intervention, or would Australia support a more protracted campaign?
Look, we want to see, when it comes to military action, I think, as always, Australia always supports diplomatic action where possible, and we hope that the actions that have been taken lead to a swift resolution. And we also say that very clearly the consequences of this are that we are concerned about the regional escalation. Iran has made the decision to take aggressive action and bomb areas of Dubai that have no role in any of this military action whatsoever. This is an aggression and an escalation by Iran that is consistent with the nature of the regime.
What options are there for repatriating Australians in the Middle East?
Look, we are in a position where we will always do what we can to support Australians there, but I do want to make the point that we've been very clear about Iran, that we're not in a position when we made the decision, a difficult decision, but one that I think was the correct decision, to close our embassy in Tehran, essentially because of the safety of our own diplomatic personnel was a decision that was required, then that has meant that our possibilities are restricted of what we can achieve. But we will continue to engage. We have very swiftly acted to set up the emergency centre. We will always update the information for Australians in the region, and we'll continue to monitor this not on a daily basis. Literally, we're doing this on an hour-by-hour, minute-by-minute basis, because our priority is keeping Australians safe. Thanks very much.